Abraham Lincoln Keister was an American businessman, lawyer, and U.S. Congressman who represented the 22nd District of Pennsylvania from 1913 to 1917. He was born on September 10, 1852, in Upper Tyrone, Pennsylvania, though at least one source cites his birthday as being December 10th. His parents were Solomon and Sarah Keister, both of whom came from German descent. His maternal grandparents were J.W. and Catherine Stauffer, who in 1863 donated land for the construction of a new building for the Jacobs Creek Church of the United Brethren, now United Methodist, the church where Keister was likely baptized. Keister's mother Sarah died in 1860 when he was 7 years old. He was then raised on a farm in Fayette County by his father and two stepmothers, Elizabeth, and then following her death, Rebecca. He was the middle child of a large family with many siblings, most notably Albert Keister, George Washington Keister, and Reverend Lawrence Keister. He attended public schools in Fayette County until age 17 when he left home to go to college. Starting in 1870, he began attending Otterbein University in Westerville, Ohio, and went on to graduate in 1874. For 2 years during that time, he returned to Pennsylvania to teach by, quote, following a district school. Later in life, Otterbein would go on to confer upon him the degree of Doctor of Laws. In 1875, he began studying law in Uniontown, PA, under the Honorable Charles E. Boyle. He later finished his law studies in Dayton, Ohio, under Judge Thomas O. Lowe. In February of 1878, Keister was admitted to the Ohio bar and moved to Columbus to practice law. He did so for 3 years, working closely within the District and Supreme Courts of Ohio, becoming one of the best constitutional attorneys in that part of the Midwest. However, due to failing health, in 1881 he retired from law and moved back to southwest Pennsylvania to live with his family. Gresham et al. Described his situation as follows in their 1890 book, Biographical and Historical Cyclopedia of Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania. Health became so much impaired by close and constant application of his duties before the District and Supreme Courts of Ohio that he was forced to abandon the law as a profession. In 1886, he established permanent residence in Scottdale. In 1882, Keister joined with his father and brothers in the family business, Connellsville Coal and Coke. This became a very successful career for him, and he soon became a well-respected businessman among the population of the surrounding counties. Shortly before his father's death, Keister started A. L. Keister and Company's Lincoln Mine and Coal Works in 1900. In 1904, he and his brothers founded the Lincoln Coal and Coke Company, which operated for approximately 30 to 40 years in the area of Waltersburg and Keisterville, the latter of which almost certainly being named for his family after the influence they held on the region. Abraham L. Keister served continuously as company president until his death. While coal and coke was his main business operation, Keister was well involved in other business opportunities and the financial scene of his local area. In 1889, he organized the First National Bank of Scottdale and served as its first president until his death. He was the main stockholder in the Old Meadow Rolling Mill, which later became a part of U.S. Steel. At some point, he became the director and vice president of the Scottdale Savings and Trust, and was, according to John Newton Boucher, interested financially in a number of other enterprises. In 1886, Abraham L. Keister took on the presidency of the Scottdale Cemetery Association, and in 1888, he became the president of the Scottdale Board of Education before resigning later that same year to begin a prolonged trip to Southern California and the Pacific Slope. Afterwards, he rejoined the board, on which he remained for 20 years until his election to Congress in 1912. His financial success led him to be a key philanthropist in the community, particularly when it came to education. He founded and endowed the Scottdale Free Public Library via a large grant, and donated a library to every school in the county that offered at least one high school level class, as well as donating libraries to several Sunday schools. Abraham Lincoln Keister entered politics when he ran for Congress in 1912. Multiple sources have described him as a Republican of the old school, and always had been. The 22nd District of Pennsylvania elected him to represent them for 2 terms until he failed to be renominated by the Republican Party in 1916. During his time in Congress, he was appointed to the District of Columbia Committee and the Coinage, Weights, and Measures Committee during the 63rd Congress. And in the 64th Congress, he served on the Banking and Currency Committee. After his term expired, he returned to Scottdale to continue his business ventures. Abraham Lincoln Keister passed away on May 26, 1917, only a few months after he returned from Congress. He almost certainly never married, though is cited as being married in one source, and left behind no children, leaving all his belongings to his siblings, nieces, nephews, and close friends. He was long affiliated with the Church of the United Brethren in Scottdale and made numerous donations through the church with the understanding that such would be kept secret. After his death, John Newton Boucher wrote in the third edition of Old and New Westmoreland the following. Mr. Keister died May 26, 1917, leaving in the business world a vacancy difficult to fill, and in his home community an irreparable void. Having never married, no wife mourned a husband, and no children sorrowed a father, but hosts of friends wept for him, and by very many he was lamented as a benefactor. He goes on to quote the Greensburg Daily Tribune. This country in general, and Westmoreland County in particular, suffered a great loss. Mr. Keister was a superior man. He lived constantly in an atmosphere of righteousness, and his early efforts were an inspiration. From the Scottdale Independent he quotes in part, among all those who have known him, in boyhood or manhood, in private or public, none can recall a mean or ignoble or cruel or deceitful word or act on his part. He was sincere in his beliefs, faithful to his word, steadfast in his friendships, and loyal to every cause he espoused. Boucher concludes, words such as these leave nothing to be added. They show that the character of Abraham Lincoln Keister had stood the supreme test, the test of intimate knowledge. He was loved most by those who knew him best.